Welcome to the Kickass Couples Podcast. This is the place where we help committed couples who want to level up their marriage experience newfound clarity, hope, and confidence. We're Matthew and Kim, co-hosts and husband and wife.
In 26 years together, we've seen a lot and never thought it could be as good as it is right now. We're here to help you successfully navigate the messy, dirty, and wonderful world of marriage.
We believe all couples deserve and are capable of experiencing an extraordinary and fulfilling marriage. And each week, we're bringing you life lessons from real-life successful couples to help you grow and strengthen your relationship.
We'll get started right after this message. If you want to learn how to experience the best, most fulfilling year of your marriage, we invite you to pre-order Matthew's new book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. You can get it at MatthewPHoffman.com. Again, that's MatthewPHoffman.com. And now, back to the show.
We are so excited to be coming to you today to talk about episode 4, but in a recap format. This is the first time that we've come to you and really gone in and find out what our takeaways are, what those big rocks, those key points to the episodes. And this is coming live out of episode number 4 with Amber and Denny Locascio, an incredible power couple, definitely kick-ass, with 2 young kids, both working full-time. And man, we got some great wisdom from them in this episode. So we're going to jump in. And Kim, I think you're going to start today with what your first takeaway was.
Yeah, I love this couple. I think that they are young and vibrant, and I wish I knew what they know now going into marriage when we were at this age in the middle of having kids and working, and it's always a crazy time. But this couple just jumped right in and right off the bat had some non-negotiables, and that was no hitting and no cheating. They agreed to that right from the get-go of their marriage.
Yeah, those were their 2 rules, right? I think those are great. They can't hit. There's no physical, so they're never allowed to put their hands on each other out of anger in any way. And they also said there's a non-option of no cheating, because neither of them said that they could tolerate that or maybe even recover from it. Two good rules. And I think that it was what you said. I want to go back what you said earlier. If man, they've been married 7 years, but I think together more like 13 or 14. And if we had been as advanced as they were 7 years into our marriage, man, we'd be like floating off the ground and I think almost ascending right now. I don't know.
Exactly.
I was really impressed with them and what they were able to do. And I think that kind of one of the takeaways that I really came out with very beginning, our first question that we ask all of our couples is, what makes you kick ass? And I think that the 2 things that they shared with us, one, Amber said, well, we're kick ass because we support each other. And that's the first thing that we do. And Denny said that they're always striving to improve. So they both really started off out of the chute. They have a growth mindset for their relationship. And I think that is definitely defined as kick-ass.
Yeah, I love that they're moving forward together. I believe one of them said that. And I think it's important that we are, when we're in a relationship, that we're really cognizant of keeping that forward movement, but unified.
Absolutely. You have to be unified. And that kind of leads into, so I think Amber Kim was talking about what she saw as her parents model in their relationship.
Yeah, one of the things that she focused on was that her parents really modeled behavior, parental behavior for her and for her siblings, and they were very unified in their decision making, which I think is another important piece.
Absolutely. I think I remember her saying that her parents made sure that they saw them communicating and working things out on the same page, that her dad wasn't coming from one point and the mom from another, so the kids were confused. And I think that what's the critical takeaway is, yes, you have to be unified in your decision making, especially when there's kids involved. And the only way you're able to do that is if you've done a lot of love mapping. And that's a term that we've learned and talked about in our book, Kickass Husband. It's a Gottman theory idea. And really, love mapping means that they've taken the time to work with each other and understand their inner worlds, so that when it comes to a decision, they each have a really calm and clear understanding of how the other one is going to come down so they can be unified. Yeah, you got to talk about it, right? You got to get agreement. You can't make those dangerous assumptions. But Denny and Amber had done a lot of love mapping, so it made it natural and easy for them to have that unification when it came to that.
Right, and that takes us right into communication. I mean, how important is that? I mean, we all need to be communicating and be vocal and open. And again, that goes back to the love mapping. That's how we really know what our hopes and dreams are for each other.
And I think that they had talked about their communication styles, and I think they're, especially when they were married, and I think they both agreed that this was one of the toughest things that they work on and maybe have room to grow in. And I think they definitely had some differences in their communication styles.
Yeah, no doubt. Amber said, I need dialogue. I need discussion. I really want to talk, and probably over talk when they communicated. And Denny was completely opposite. He just wants the succinct facts. Don't want to spend 20 minutes on a 5-minute conversation. And so, yeah, I think they really had to learn how to figure out how they could communicate where they weren't getting frustrated. And we heard Amber say she leaned into his style, and that it was important for her to really just sort of tone down and carve down what she was trying to say and get across.
Yeah, they each had to kind of come halfway and meet each other. I think Amber said I had to learn how to be less wordy and get to the point quicker and still be allowed to talk about my feelings. And I think I remember Denny going, his idea of communicating was to put something on the calendar. And if it was on the calendar, he communicated enough about it. And Amber laughed. She goes, I need a little bit more information than just the time on a calendar. And so Denny had to learn how to share and communicate on those things as well. A good example of them coming together, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to creating a kick-ass marriage, do you ever wonder how you're doing? We found that there are 13 key components that make up a thriving relationship, which is why we've created the Kick-Ass Assessment. In this powerful free tool, you'll learn what they are and how you and your spouse are ranking in each one. And you'll get recommendations that will help you start improving today. To get your results, simply visit MatthewPHoffman.com. Again, that's MatthewPHoffman.com. It's time to start kicking ass. Let's go.
Another thing with Denny and Amber was, they both came from really different backgrounds. Amber had a very open, loving, affectionate family. And Denny just felt like his dad just sort of really didn't show up a lot of the time. And he really didn't have the role model in a father that he needed. But one of the things I really want to point out to our listeners is that his mom made sure he had other great role models, and that we don't always need a father or a mother to provide the mothering or fathering roles in our lives. Other people can fulfill those needs for us.
Oh, absolutely. I can speak from personal experience on that. You need mothering and fathering. You need those male and female leadership roles and positions in our lives, but those qualities can come across from a lot of relationships. I lost my mother when she was 59, and so I was a young guy, out of college and starting to work, and I certainly miss her myself, but I was most concerned, who's going to be the grandmother to my kids, right? I mean, your parents have done an amazing job of that, but God, it was amazing to see the provision of all the mothering I needed from other family members, from friends. So many people gave me those qualities, and it sounds like Denny's experience too. His grandparents, both his grandfathers and grandmothers, acted in those roles for him, so he got what he needed from his other relationships. And I can attest that it comes across in a lot of ways, and that was a cool way to see it demonstrated.
Yeah. What about commitment? I know they talked a lot about commitment and showing up for each other. What did you take away from that?
Well, I think my takeaway from that, I remember Amber saying that commitment to her meant that you show up through thick and thin. whatever the moment is that each spouse is working to meet the needs of the other one. And she talked about a couple of examples, right? When on their wedding day, she got pretty ill when they were married. She was in the hospital, and Denny was there by her side through pregnancy. She had some tough bouts in pregnancy, and he was there giving her what she needed in the moment and through thick and thin. It's not just those happy times when it's easy, but it's in the challenges when you have to dig deep and do that. And Denny's thoughts on commitment were a little different, but something that we relate well to. He said, our commitment is written in the stone, non-negotiable. Divorce was not an option. He said, there's no way we would even consider that. We're committed to working it out because we're committed to each other for the long term. So there was no plan B. That seems to be like a recurring theme in everybody that we've talked to. And he said, it's written in stone. There's no way that we're going to do anything other than figure out what we can solve. And, I've thrown this statistic around a lot. 69% of all issues cannot be solved in a relationship. And that's a statistic that is backed up with research and data. So there's only about a third of the things that you're going to be able to solve. And the rest is really seeking to understand and getting agreement on how you can respect and love somebody else's viewpoint and move forward. And I think they definitely had that down in commitment in what we saw.
Yeah, and I think one other thing that I like to point out is back to that same thing we hear over and over again, knowing the love languages. That was one thing they said really helped their marriage early on, knowing what each other's love languages are. And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They were able to figure out, it wasn't a guess. It wasn't a stab in the dark.
Right.
They each knew what the other one loved and needed most and made sure. And Denny got me on this habit. I've done it with you a few times. He'll say to Amber, Denny's part of my accountability group, and I'll say, hey, Denny, how well are you meeting her filling her love tank right now? And he goes, oh, man, I'm at an 8.5 right now. Or he might say, oh, geez, I'm more like a 7. We haven't had a date in a while, and we need some good one-on-one time. So they're having those check-ins and finding that out and not just knowing it, but then, okay, are you executing and are you delivering on that promise?
Yeah. And I think one of my favorite things that I heard them say was the dying on the mountain. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I think all of our listeners, this is this is kind of a safe word or an expression that you can come up with when there's an issue and they have some disagreement or discussion on. One will say to the other, do you feel like dying on the mountain on this one? In other words, is it so important to you that you're going to stick to your guns and not bend because you want to die on the mountain to be right? Or do you want to move through it? Let's talk, set it aside, and let's go forward.
Yeah, I think the question is, how long do you want to be in this uncomfortable space, right? Is it worth digging in and holding on to it and revisiting it for the next however many days until we work through it? So I love that term, and it actually adds a little humor, I think, to the moment as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think they said too that they've asked each other that question, and neither one of them has ever said, I'm dying on the mountain for this, because they wanted to move on. And that's another key takeaway is it's a choice, right? Any disagreement between two people, when it's opinion and no one's been hurt and no values have been compromised, you have a choice. You have a choice of how long do you want it to go on. Do you want to kiss and make up, eat some crow, or admit you're wrong, right? Accept responsibility. Yeah, not be a victim and say, I was wrong and I apologize. I ask for your forgiveness and I want to move forward, because it's much more fun living in the sun than in those dark and stormy days like we're having here today, right? Yeah. So I definitely, I don't think there's ever been anything I've been willing to die on the mountain in our relationship.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. That's right. So something that we kind of talked about, a neat progression that Amber and Denny shared with us is what they'd learned from each other. And I think Denny talked about he had only brothers growing up, and his only female influence in his life was his mom. And she's a beautiful, strong, caring woman that's been a great grandmother to his kids. But he wasn't really sure how to be a great father to his daughter. And Amber, being one of 2 girls in her family, she goes, I can tell you because I had it growing up. So Amber really worked with Denny and gave him the ideas and thoughts about what he needed to do to be a great father to their first daughter, which was their first child.
And he was willing to accept that influence. Again, he was willing to say, help me with this. This is an area where I'm weak and I want to learn. I want to be good at this.
Absolutely. So I think that he learned that from her. And Amber said that from Denny, I learned how to be calm and steady, because she said that he's got ice running through his veins because he's calm and cool, doesn't get ruffled, and when things happen, he calmly deals and moves forward in that great way, and that she's learned from him how to handle pressure and stress and how to be consistent and driven by values and not by emotion. And that's hard for all of us. We get emotional and things get heavy, and we react to the emotion instead of really staying in the moment. So that idea, Kim, I want to come back to that, because couples that have learned how to accept influence from each other are the couples that are going to make it for the long haul. Dr. John Gottman and his wife have done research, and they can statistically say that couples who are not able to accept influence from each other are really doomed, because it's going to break down the fiber of the relationship, because they're each willing to say they may be right, that they can lead and learn how to follow on different issues in their relationship.
Sure, it's like hitting a brick wall. If you can't accept influence from each other, you're going to go nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another idea that they shared with Amber and Denny shared is there's no quid pro quo. It's not, well, you do for me, therefore I'll do for you. They're just both always looking of what things they can do to help love and give support to the other one. And a lot of people throw this phrase that, oh yeah, it's 50-50, you got to meet halfway, it's 50 you, 50 me. But what really is that expression, Kim?
It really should be 100% and 100%.
Yeah, and
both ways.
Oh yeah, and they were definitely 100 to each other, I think. And that was great to see. So
great interview, lots to learn from them. If you have not already listened to this podcast in its entirety, we hope that you'll go on our website. And it was episode 4, I believe, Matthew?
Episode 4 with Amber and Denny Locascio. And they are a dynamic, power, kick-ass couple who are doing it right in their relationship. They've made each other number one, and they've got lots of great examples and more stories in that episode for you all to listen to and hear how you can do that in your own number one relationship. So I think that's about all we have for you today on this recap, sharing those pearls with you. Again, go back and check that interview out in its entirety. If you like this interview or any other one, please like us. Please share and let others know who might benefit from the work that we're doing here on the Kickass Couples Podcast. And until next time, remember that happily ever after does not just happen.
That's all we've got for this episode of the Kickass Couples Podcast. If you like the content of this show, you'll love Matthew's upcoming book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. To receive a digital mini book of quotes and images from the book, all you have to do is rate this show and leave a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. Then email us a screenshot of your review at podcast@kickasscouplespodcast.com, and we'll get it over to you right away.
Until next time, remember, happily ever after doesn't just happen.